I thought I'd show you how I assemble my screen bottom boards. These bottom boards are made out of Menards Ultra Deck, which is a composite decking material. I buy the lightest color they offer. That way it keeps the hive cool. And I've had these on in my apiary for over a year now, and they're absolutely fantastic. Bees love them. They are a little slick. One of the things I do, I put my Propolis tincture on this surface here. That way, when I put the hive body on, or if I'm using a slatted rack, I put the slatted rack on, it's tacky, it sticks to this. And the Propolis tincture is just some Everclear mixed with Propolis, and I make a slurry. You know, it takes a while for this to mix. And of course, I just use a paintbrush. I have some Everclear in here with a paintbrush just to keep it soft. So that way, whenever I want to use it, it's ready to go. But so this green bottom board is pretty nice. It's got a hole in the back for introducing oxalic acid vapor. And then of course, I use plastic sheeting for my IPM boards. And this plastic slides right in. And now I have this one a little bit tight because this is my gauge for this. I'll show you, you'll see that later, but it basically hermetically seals. It even actually, I have a groove in the front and it slides up in that groove. So in the winter, I'll slide this in. I'll put a wood shim here, and then I put a wedge back here, and that seals up that gap. And you get that's really quick and fast for winterizing the hive. The only other thing I do is put a quilt box on, and I'm ready to rock and roll. So I thought I'd show you how I assemble it, and I'll talk about a lot of little tricks along the way. One thing I use is 3-inch deck screws, number 9s. Number 9 3-inch, which is this one here. And the important thing about this is to have lots of shank so that you don't have threads in this area. That way when you draw the pieces together, the piece that's drawing is the piece you're screwing into. You'll see that later. And then the other ones I use are 2.5-inch number 9 deck screws. But these are a little long, so I actually grind the end off just a tad. But that way I get really good thread engagement using those. And then the other thing is the drill bit. So Trex is notorious for splitting out or bulging when you screw into it. So I'm using a number 20 bit, and that is closest. So a number 20 is 0.1595, and the closest decimal bit to that is a 5/32, which is 1565. So it's pretty close. But I found the number 20 works best as far as preventing splitting, and also you get maximum drawing with that. So the first thing I'm going to do is make the inner piece. Let me see if make sure this is, you can see all this. This is what the screen sets on. So this will go inside the frame. And bear with me here, but so I always face these down. So the top surface is facing the table. That way I get a perfect plane. So if all the pieces are facing down and I'm clamping them tight, if they vary in thickness, it doesn't matter, because the surface that I'm trying to keep flat is the surface that's touching the table. So I simply, it's hard for me to think about all this stuff, and I guess I have stage fright. But I like to use a bigger clamp here so it doesn't interfere as I'm screwing that one in. And then I just get these flush, and if they're not, I take a little ball peen and give them a tap. So this is a pretty handy tool. It's just a chamfering, but I put a drill stop on it. And that makes it really quick. You don't have to think much. You just tap it in there, and it puts a perfect depth of chamfer. I put this a little far away from the table, so I didn't drill that in as deep as I could. But you can see that there's absolutely no bulging at all when I drill it with that drill. Now I'm doing the other side. Except I screwed up. So this board, whether it's Trex or Ultradeck, this stuff is not flat. Like if you were to pick up one of these pieces and look at it, you can see that it's bowed. All this stuff, it's not only bowed in this direction, but if you look at it in this direction, it's bowed. If I got a full piece, this is the landing board, and you can see that it's bowed, it's cupped. So when they put this final top coat on of plastic, as it's curing, it shrinks and it causes this wood to cup, which is not unfortunate, because then when you put it on your deck, it's gonna hold water in that little cup. So, but that's just the nature of the beast. So I clamp this other side, and it will move on you a little bit. If it does, it doesn't matter. Give it a little tap, give it a little tap this way, tighten it up, and then drive your drill in. I'm trying to go as level as I can here. So once I get this frame done, I'll just set it aside, and we'll come back to it in a bit here. We'll just set it over here, and now we'll pull the main boards out. So this is a side, and I use a small router table to route this slot. That's for the IPM board. And then there's two pieces that go in here. One of them is a 2-inch, or I think it's 2.5 inch. Yeah, one's a 2.5 inch and one's a 2-inch. I think that's right. Anyway, so this one goes on the bottom like this. So what I'll do is take a marker, and this is just for drilling later. It gives me a reference to where I'm at. You flip this over, and you put the other one in on this side. This is just where these pieces will go. And then I'll take the other side. This is the opposite side, and I'll do the same thing. This is going to go in here. I'll just mark it. If I use this fine Sharpie, it doesn't leave as big of a mark. So it's, except I just did that one wrong. It's hard when I'm on film. Okay, we'll do this one correctly this time. So mark that one, flip it over, mark the other side. And then the only other thing left to do is I'm going to be putting a bunch of screws across here, so I want to reference where this is going to be the inner frame is going to screw into this. So I'm just referencing. So this is the top side of the bottom board. I got the bottom board upside down basically. Everything's going to be referenced off this table so that everything is flat. So I'm just making 2 lines on here. That'll give me a reference where I'm going to screw in this first frame that we made. So next, this stuff, I don't know, it doesn't clamp very well. This is rounded. Sometimes it's a little flat, sometimes it's rounded, sometimes it's kind of offset. So it makes it hard to put a C-clamp on it. So normally what I'll do is put a board on top, and then I'll put my C-clamp on a little bit towards the center, and that'll put a little pressure on that one too. That way it holds this down tight. I want everything tight down to this surface. It's the only way to get this stuff flat. So now this is the back of the bottom board. This is actually the back top, this piece here. And you can see how it just doesn't want to, the C-clamp doesn't want to hang on. There we go. And then I'm going to pop this in a little bit to make it tight. If it's not tight, as you're drilling it, some of the shards from the Ultradeck get in between that gap, and then it makes it more difficult for you to draw them tight. So the next thing I'm going to do, when I drill this, I'm going to drill slightly upward on the bottom hole. Matter again, that just keeps it from potentially, I measure up slightly downward on the top hole. And I still screwed up these references I did with the marker. But anyway, I've done it enough. I really don't need them, but I was showing them for you also. It would help you reference it. So that side's done. We'll move on to the other side. Flip this around. Put this piece on. Here again, we want to clamp down our main frame. Make sure it's tight up against the table. I don't know how well you guys can see all this, but put this one on. And I'll drill. You can see it's pretty fast once you start getting the feel of it. I don't know how many of these I've made. I think I have about 23 or so out in the yard, maybe more. Okay, so, and then I'm building another 16 right now, and I think this is like number 10 or 11. So there's the outer frame. Now I'm ready to, these are spacers. These will set that screen board 5/8 inch lower than the main frame. So we just basically drop this in, and you can see how bowed all this is. It's nothing square, so you have to clamp everything. If you don't, you run into problems. So I like to squeeze this frame, this inner frame back into this outer frame. So I always will clamp it. Otherwise, you're not going to get nice flush pieces. And then the next thing I'll do, I'll put my C-clamps on, and I'll bring this up to show you how I do this. I kind of like put it mostly on the inner, because the inner is going to set down a little bit inside this outer frame. And the reason I do that is when I put my shims in, I don't want it to interfere with the inner. When I put my shims in for winterizing, I don't want to try to slide the shim in and it hits this inner piece. So I have those slightly pressed down, and I could probably show that to you so you can see how this C-clamp just actually kind of cocks up, and that allows this surface to be a little lower than this surface. So when I put my winter shim in, it doesn't hit this, it'll slide in there nicely. So next thing I'm gonna do is join this. I put two 2.5 inch screws in the back, and I offset them because the center is going to be where the oxalic acid hole is. So these go each side of that. And then these are the 2.5 inch number 9 deck screws, and these are the ones I ground off slightly because otherwise they stick through. And if they stick through with that sharp point on them, it really hurts when you grab a hold of it. So that's the back. And now I have to do the side. So I'm done with these C-clamps for now. And these are cool. These are those extended reach pony clamps. I really like them. They're a little better than the regular pony clamps for a lot of applications. Now what I'm going to do is just slide this completely sideways and bring it up to the edge of the table. Here again, I'm going to clamp the main frame down. Make sure it's tight up against the table. That's just something you have to do every single time. And then you can see how like bowed up this is. All this stuff has to be, you know, tamed down, put in the right spot. So I usually start at this end, and I'll clamp this down. And then I want this tight. Sometimes I clamp it, but sometimes if you just squeeze it, you can get it what you need. And I'll do the same thing in the back. I want to make sure this is flat, and I already see a problem. These boards are not all the way back in. These shim boards need to go all the way to the back. Otherwise, if I clamp it, it'll get pushed down too far. So now I got the two ends tight to the surface. So we'll go ahead and drill the two ends. Put our chamfer. These are still the whole inner frame is put in with 2.5-inch screws. And then I'll move this clamp over, make sure the center, because it could be bowed, the center could be bowed. I move it over, clamp the center down. That'll ensure that screen surface is flat across the top of the hive. It's important to make these all the same, because when you make all your shim boards for your winterization, if there's inconsistency in this, then your shim boards are going to be loose in some of them, too tight in others where you can't get them in. I'm trying to make everything very, very similar so that everything works. I don't have a lot of headaches when I'm trying to get my hive set up for winter. Here again, I'm just doing exactly what I did a second ago. I'm clamping the front down, clamping the back down. Make sure everything's tight, lined up. The main frame's already clamped down. Take a peek over the other side. See where my board ends. So I get my hole in the right spot. And I'll go ahead and just drill this one in right now. Yeah, I could feel that dropping down, so it was definitely bowed up slightly. And then it's not the end of the world, but I like things to look good. So now it's starting to look like a bottom board. So the next step is to put the landing board in. That's at the very front. So we'll flip it around like this. Here's the landing board. Now notice, remember I said this was cupped? So if I just put my C-clamp in the middle, this whole thing will get squeezed down. So this goes in like that. And then we want to draw it up tight to these pieces. So this will draw it up tight to here. And then I need to squeeze these sides together. And what happened to my side squeezer clamp? That's interesting. Oh, here it is. Okay, so this one goes on right here. And I like to get it clear out to the edge as much as I can, because I'm going to put two screws on each side right next to that. So what's left? We have it squeezed in this direction. We have it squeezed in this direction. Now we need to make sure everything is flat to the table. So what I do here is swing this around, and I'm basically trying to make sure I got a nice approach with my drill and all my, putting my screws in. So I'll slide this over here. I'll go ahead and squeeze the main frame down again. I know this is real repetitive, but if you don't do this, it just doesn't make for a nice piece. So I only have to clamp this in the middle because it's cupped. so it'll squeeze the whole thing down. And then I already have those lines. Remember, I put the lines in before we assembled this, so I know where to drill. It took me a long time to figure out what drill bit worked the best for these number 9 screws. I had a lot of trial and error, but the number 20 is the ticket. That thing, just a few thousandths of an inch different in a hole diameter, really makes a big difference. So that side's done. Should probably clean my table off better so I have a larger work surface, but I'm kind of used to working with crap all around me. I get used to it and just make it work. So I'm gonna clamp the main frame down again. I gotta clamp this landing board down. Drill my holes with my alignment lines. I don't know if I told you, but it takes 16 of these 3-inch deck screws, and it takes 8 of the 2.5-inch deck screws. So not a lot of screws, but a few. So now the frame is all, we got a frame here. A couple more pieces to go, and we'll be good. So the next thing I like to do, we're done with these, is I have a gauge. It's a plastic gauge, and it's made to fit tight. And what this will do, you'll see in a minute. I slide this in until it bottoms out into and it's really tight on this one. Okay, it's going to be tight on this one. This is the first time this has happened. These Trek boards are bowed, so sometimes the stuff doesn't quite work right. Okay, it's just in the back. So I slide this in all the way till it bottoms out on my router slots. And then I have another board. This is the board that goes in the front underneath and it's got a routed out place. So I stick this one on. And what I like to do is once this is bottomed out and that's in there nice, I take a fatter magic marker and I put a line across here so that I can see it. And then what I'll do is I bring this forward just a teeny bit, the whole thing forward just a little bit. That way, when I put this IPM board in, I'm sure it's bottoming out on this board. It's not getting caught on the end of the router, the channels. And then from there, this is pretty simple. I don't really do anything here other than I make sure this is pushed down and I put a screw in each side. Now, if you watch this will show you how Trex works, or Ultradeck. When I snug this screw up, you're gonna see it probably kick up and maybe kick out. And that's the reason I put that line on there, that mark on there. When I put this one in, yeah, you see how it actually kicked forward mostly. So I've lost my reference, right? But because I put this marker line in there, I can just simply push this back to make it even on each side. Hold that down nice and tight. Put my screws in. It's all these little, I guess, items that don't seem important that make your box really nice. So now if I can get this plastic out, we'll see. But you can see, I can see my mark all the way across there. It's slightly in. That'll ensure this IPM board goes all the way up, and it came out nicely. Okay, the next piece, and it is the final piece, is this back, actually got it written on here, back bottom board. So the way this one works, it goes in back here. And I will angle this again to where I can get a nice approach on this. And I mark these upside down when I mark them. That one's fine. I marked this one upside down anyway. So I like to have that marked because it shows me where to put my screws. And I will just slide this back over to here. Even if it hangs over a little, it doesn't matter. But the key here is you want to make sure these pieces are snug up against the table. Like when I squeeze this down, this side jumps up. It's just because it's bowed. So with this composite decking, it's very important to clamp everything to the table. I just can't overstress that. I've probably said it 100 times so far. Now these just go absolutely straight in. I try to be as level as possible. No angling on these. This is a pretty wide piece, so I have plenty of room. Put a couple screws in there. And then we just have to do the other side. Same thing. I'll angle it the opposite direction. Squeeze this piece down. I like to get in the middle of it. Make sure this is squeezed down. Tighten up this screw that I loosened to get that IPM board in. And now we'll screw in this bottom board. And these are the last two screws. Once I put these in, we're ready to put the screen in. Now we got a nice frame that sits down 5/8 of an inch. And now I'm gonna, this iPhone is mounted to a piece of 2.5 inch diameter pipe. And I've got it taped to a piece of wood that sticks into the pipe. So that's my pogo stick. So here's what I'm doing here. The key to this one is this is awesome. This shears. This shear, the way it's designed, it keeps your hands out of the wire as you're cutting. If you just use a regular shear, even if you put gloves on, if you just use your hands, this wire pokes into your fingers and you're going to be bleeding and it hurts and it stings for a long time. If you put gloves on, it gets stuck on the gloves. So with this, using this type of shear, you'll see in a minute, it is sweet. It keeps my fingers out, it cuts nice, and I don't have to mess with it. So this is just a piece of plastic, IPM board, but it's cut to the right dimension. So this is a template for my bottom board screen. And now I have a mark so I can cut this. And I just hold it down. Once I get a little, I hold two pieces down. And I can cut this without it trying to bite me. So this is number 8 hardware cloth. I'm gonna take you back over to the workstation. Make sure we're lined up pretty good. So the first thing I do here is, so that when I cut this, I have a nice trim piece at the front. And these are folded under, so the folds are on the bottom side, the wire anyway. So all I do here is, I'll keep it just a little bit away from the back, and a little way, I even it on both sides, so it's a little bit away. And usually I put 2 staples in the back, and I just ran out of staples. So we'll put some more staples in. These are 1/4 inch. they're like T50 1/4 inch. That's all I use. Line this back up because I lost my reference. Put a couple staples in. Flip this around. So the most important on this screen is the front. You want this front to set flat. Everything else doesn't really matter. So I pull this forward with my fingers, and I'll stick one right in the middle. And then I'll push this at a 45-degree angle. And then I'll work from the center out. And I use lots of extra staples because I can. I like this front piece to be flat, so when I put my introducer in, it doesn't interfere. And then I'll squeeze this out at a 45, do the corners, do this corner. And I'll do the same on the sides. I push this out, push this side out. So now I've got everything in I need. Now I can just start piling these in. And yes, I put a few extra. One thing I forgot to do is put my IPM hole. I was supposed to put that in before my screen. I lay this piece of metal on here and I drill from the inside out. Makes it nice, but since I forgot, I gotta do it the alternate method, which works just about as well. I reach in from the back and I just eyeball where this is as far as center. And that's it. That is a completed bottom board, and I can't see on here because I got a piece of tape over here, but it looks like it took me, was it 11 minutes and 40 seconds, something like that. I can't see it. I got a piece of tape holding the camera on, but that is an IPM board ready to go out in the yard. The only thing I'll do, like I said, I'll put some my Propolis tincture on here. I can show you how I do that real quick. This stuff is, I steal this from the bees, right? I haven't used this one in a while, but I have a paintbrush in here. I don't know if you can even see all this. Yeah, you can. Okay, I'll squeeze off some of the excess Everclear that's in there. Then I just simply, and this is a little wet from my sweat. It's gonna be another hot day here in Kentucky. I normally have a fan. I got a fan over there, but I shut it off so you guys could hear me better. But I'll have a fan blowing on me, and that really helps keep me cool. And don't really care too much about this Propolis. Bees love it. It's their goo. So you can be, you can put on as much as you want. You can even put some down in the corners if you want. Anything you put on here helps them because they're gonna just do it anyway. So, but that's it. And the Everclear will evaporate out and you'll be left just with the Propolis. And of course it's wood grain alcohol. So, I mean, not wood grain, that's the propyl alcohol. It's human grade, so it won't hurt the bees. But that's it. So hopefully you enjoyed that.